Hello, Scott Pantel here, CEO of Life Science Intelligence, and I am with Jennifer Freed, CEO of ExplORer Surgical, one of our alumni companies from last year, one of the innovators that we asked to come back this year to share with us some exciting updates. Jennifer, welcome.
Thanks, Scott. I'm excited to be here with you virtually and even more excited to be with you in person in a couple months in sunny California.
We can't wait to see you, Jennifer. Thank you for coming back and for your commitment. I'm sure our audience would love to get current with you. Can you just get us current with ExplORer? Tell us what's going on, maybe some key milestones, get us caught up.
Yeah, so ExplORer is a comprehensive digital and remote case support platform for the med device industry. So as you can imagine, 2020 was quite a year for us. So I think LSI was one of the last, if not the last, large event that I went to before the world shut down. And, you know, the pandemic has obviously brought a lot of distress to the entire world. But the silver lining that we've seen is just the entire industry really embracing digital and embracing remote. And so for us, 2020, you know, our business grew 6x over 2019, as you've seen the industry just fully embrace tools like ExplORer, which is really, really exciting. And so we know that digital and remote are here to stay. And, you know, in the past year, you know, we probably saw growth that would have otherwise taken 5 years for the industry to achieve. And people are really leaning in.
That's terrific. And one thing I was curious about when I was doing a little bit of homework, but what surgical specialties are you guys supporting and what's the geographic focus? Are you just in the US or can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we support surgical specialties across the spectrum. I'd say, you know, our largest concentration of business is in orthopedic, spine, cardiovascular, and robotics, but we have customers across the surgical and procedural realm. So GI, urology, you know, really, you have to edit this now, ophthalmology, urology, and so forth. So we're being used across surgical specialties and across settings. So we're pretty evenly split between hospitals, ASCs, and office-based labs. We are global, and you know what's really exciting for us is that 2021 was the first year that we brought collaborators from 4 different continents together into the same surgical procedure to coordinate the team. So that's been really exciting for us, as you know, we've seen travel, and especially international travel, really be limited. To be able to help companies collaborate together across borders to provide care for patients.
That's terrific. So I'm going to ask you a loaded question here as the CEO of a startup company. Is it safe to say that you raised all the capital you needed last year, or is there a chance you're still raising capital? Tell us a little bit about your capital raising situation.
Yeah, so we are still currently fundraising. You know, we're always eager to bring on new investors that can provide more than capital as well. So we love working with investors that have deep expertise in the med device industry, hence coming to LSI to connect with prospective new investors to get involved in our business. You know, I'd say this space of digital and remote surgery is still really nascent, right? So this is just emerging, it's just forming. There's so much growth for us to come in. So we're excited to take on new capital to really fuel that growth.
Talk to us about strategics. Will your participation at the summit be purely focused on fundraising, and or are the discussions with strategics ramping up? Tell us a little bit, what do you want strategics to know about you today, or not?
We're pretty open book, and you know, for strategics, you know, we work with most of the large med tech strategics already as a customer of ExplORer Surgical. So we have, you know, most of the top 10 med device companies on our company roster. So we're eager to grow, you know, the number of medical device customers as well as deepen our existing relationships. But, you know, I think we're also just at such a transformational time in this industry, right? 2020 brought about this huge inflection point, like I said, with the digital and remote surgery really coming to fruition. And so we're really eager to talk to strategics about other ways that we might be able to work together to really accelerate the use of ExplORer in the OR and procedure suites.
That's terrific. So Jennifer, you know, we don't have this meeting without innovators like yourself. And I think one of the things that's always fascinating to talk about is sort of what inspired you. So can you tell us a little about what was the inspiration for what you're doing today? How did you get where you're at today?
Yeah, so we started the company out of a research lab in the Department of Surgery at University of Chicago. The research lab was founded in 2011, so now 10 years ago, studying operating room workflow and operating room efficiency, or the lack thereof, as we like to say. So my co-founder, Alex, is a head and neck surgeon who founded that research lab. And when I met him, I was working as a healthcare investor on the West Coast. So I was doing later stage venture capital and growth equity healthcare investing. Met Alex in 2013, and I had never been in an operating room myself, not as a patient, not as an observer. And so when Alex started telling me about some of the pain points that he was experiencing around variability in the OR and some of the intraoperative delays and disruptions that can happen as a result of it, I honestly didn't believe him when he first started telling me about this. And so there's no way that you're going to have things like this happen, especially at, top academic institutions. And this was right before, HIPAA became really big and there were restrictions on getting into the OR. So I like to say, if I had met Alex 2 years later, this may have never happened. So in 2013, I started getting up early, going into the OR with Alex, and really saw exactly what he had described. So tremendous variability in the OR that often had an impact on patients. And Alex had a vision for, could we bring a digital software into the room to map out procedural best practices so that what happened in the room wasn't going to be impacted because one person wasn't able to be there in time, or somebody had to sub in or had a different shift. But how could we really bring best practices into the room for an entire team to see and embrace, so that you could have the team work together in an optimal way to take care of that patient? And so that was the foundation of us working together. I spent 3 years working with Alex, really in a part-time capacity, to start to build out some early prototypes. We did some research in partnership with the University of Chicago and the National Science Foundation. And then in 2016 was when I took the step of leaving my prior role and focusing on running the business full time. So that's when we started hiring a team, building a commercial product, and bringing it to market. And it's been an incredible experience.
No turning back now, right?
No turning back.
Well, it's innovators like yourself that really make the meeting of ours what it is today. And so we really appreciate you using our platform as one of the ways that you spread the word about all the great things that you're doing. Are there any, maybe there's a top milestone or two that you guys are going after this year that you'd like our audience to be aware of?
Yeah, we actually just achieved a really exciting milestone. So we built our 1,000th procedure variation in ExplORer recently. So it's been one that I knew was going to happen soon, and we actually just achieved it. So we're so excited to see our tool being used, as I mentioned, in such a range of surgical specialties and geographies and different surgical settings. So next one is 10,000.
Congratulations, that's terrific. And no doubt we'll hear about more exciting news on the way for you guys. Before we shift gears a bit, and we've kind of touched on the impact that this year has had on all of us, is there anything else that you'd like our audience to know, whether they're an investor, a strategic, or just an industry partner in general? Any other things that you'd like to make sure that people are aware of today?
Yeah, I think, when people think about remote surgery and the use of digital tools, I think people sometimes think of it as binary, right? So am I going to have my entire team in the room the way that we used to, or is it going to be fully remote and no reps are going to be there? And what we're seeing is that there's a lot of in between. It's not on and off. We liken it more to a dimmer switch. And what we're seeing is more and more companies are creating new commercial models that have a hybrid. So, you may have, your reps that are still there in person, but reps that are training, maybe observing a procedure remotely. And so I'd love for everybody that, listens to this and attends LSI to, think about where are we going and can we start to do more, with digital and remote technology, knowing that it doesn't have to be all the way one way or the other, but there's a lot of interesting opportunities.
That's great. And, Jennifer, I know that especially a company like yours, you have a lot of choices in terms of how you'll spread your message. So I have to ask a selfish question here, and that is, what attracted you to the LSI event? Why are you coming back? And what are your expectations for this event that we're having here in a couple months?
Yeah, well, you had me at the Ritz in Southern California. Don't use that.
We may.
Or maybe you will, I don't know. I had such a great experience at LSI last year. I actually heard about the conference from one of our Series A investors and was excited to check it out for the first time last year. And what was really valuable to me was the combination of people that were attending it. So I got a chance to meet a number of investors, but also a number of leaders, both at mature medtech companies and early stage companies like ExplORer Surgical. So it was a great group of people in a really wonderful setting. That the conference actually led me to several new customers last year, which was incredibly beneficial for us. So I'm just really excited to come and be together with this great group.
That's great. And we'll see you in person. I believe we'll see you in person in a couple months. So that'll certainly be a bonus. And I know everybody's looking forward to getting back out as soon as we can do so safely, which is the plan, obviously.
Absolutely. What is the plan, out of curiosity, if you're allowed to, is it outdoor, indoor, distant rooms?
We're going, so last year we had half the meeting space at the Ritz, and we had about a little over 400 attendees. So this year we have all the meeting space. We have twice as much space, but we're going to cap the in-person registration at about the same number. So part of the plan is just to spread out, to make sure we did it. All the dining, the receptions that were previously indoors will all be done outdoors. Not a bad view, right? But we'll do all the dining, the receptions, all the social elements will be done outdoors. And then also we're going to split up the tracks and we're going to spread things out. And then the final thing is that, the Ritz-Carlton is a tremendous partner. And so they are doing everything that's required to make sure we're staying within guidelines. And in addition to that, one of my board members, who's a practicing physician, who's out treating and diagnosing COVID, currently, and has been over the last year, he's going to be on site with a staff, and they're they're going to administer and oversee and basically make sure he's going to police the situation and make sure that, we're all wearing our masks, we're distanced, that we're watching people, and that we have an on-site team that can administer and watch over everything. So for the people that this is right for, to be there in person, we're going to do things the right way. For the folks that maybe now is not the time, we're going to bring them in digitally. So it will truly be a hybrid event, and we're going to make that digital element as engaging as possible. I'm sure you've experienced some virtual events this year, and I admire all of the creativity that's going on out there, but we believe that there's definitely some things that are to be desired in terms of engaging the digital element. So if you're on site, we're going to do everything to make you safe and comfortable. We're going to follow all the rules. And if you're digitally, we're going to try and make you feel like you're really a part of the event. So it'll be a challenge, but again, with great companies like yours and the turnout that we have now, we feel very, very grateful and optimistic about how this thing's going to play out.
Great.
So I'd like to ask you, it's been an insane year. Silver lining, and you kind of touched on it at the beginning of the call, but silver lining for you and it can be personal, it can be professional, it can be both, but what are some things that have come out of this year that you look back on and you're grateful for, maybe?
Yeah, the personal silver lining is being able to have more time at home with my family. So I was working from home last spring and I got to see my son take his first steps at home. And, as a mom, that was just a really incredible moment to be there for, as somebody that's usually traveling all the time. But if I'm not traveling, I'm still usually in my office. So that's just been a a wonderful blessing of the extra family time. And I definitely won't be going back to traveling as much as I was before. Professionally, I'd say the silver lining has absolutely been, the med tech industry and healthcare industry more broadly, just embracing the digital and embracing the remote. And, it's funny because there were so many things that were normal before that I'd say were impractical. And then the pandemic made the impractical impossible. And that is what drove change. I had a business school professor that said nothing ever changes until something bad happens. And that really applies here with the pandemic. But the thing is that the change that has been brought is so beneficial for everybody, for all of the stakeholders in the healthcare industry. And it's permanent, it's here to change.
Well said. Well said. I'd like to package that attitude up. It's just fascinating working with entrepreneurs like yourself, not only from a technology standpoint, but just from an attitude on life standpoint. And so we know that there's great things to come. We are really proud to have you at our event and to support all the things that you're doing for industry. And at the end of the day, helping patients, which is what it's all about. So we look forward to seeing you in a couple short months, Jennifer. Until then, have a wonderful weekend and enjoy your little one.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. I can't wait to be there in person and see you and get to see everybody.
It's going to be great.